Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
I'm number one fan, Tim.
I'm going to hand you a piece of paper. Read at the top.
FFC-Acrush.
Acrush.
Acrush.
What do you see?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Asian-looking boys, although that one might be a girl. And the one's wearing a really weird-ass jacket, and the one behind him has his arms around him.
Yeah.
So there must be some love there.
I'll play a video for you.
Love is a beautiful thing.
Are you enjoying this so far?
I like the music. Can we mute the singing?
No.
So
That's all I'm going to subject
Asian
you
Backstreet Boys?
Yeah, it's a boy band.
Well, I figured that.
Now here comes the hook. Those are all girls.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
all girls.
I figured the one was a girl.
Acrush is a boy band comprised of 5 girls. And all the members prefer not to use gender pronouns and instead go by Mishanyan. I'm probably butchering that. A term that's gender-free and means handsome youths in Chinese. The A in their name comes from the Greek god of male beauty, Adonis. So, one of China's biggest pop stars, Li Yuchun, inspired the boy band due to her androgynous style. And the group's manager pulled a Simon Cowell by assembling 5 members to model after unisex appeal. In China, fans call attractive-looking males husbands. As a result, the members of the C-pop group are referred to as such. In recent years, androgyny has become more acceptable and marketable. They have yet to create a name for their fandom, though. Their music, now that it's out, under the rules of FFC, which stands for Fantasy Football Confederation, they will need to incorporate elements of soccer in their videos. Their sound is expected to be a mix of K-pop and C-pop. And I got to tell you, when I first saw this picture, I went, what the fuck is that? That cannot be dudes. And then I read up, I'm like, oh, it's all chicks.
That's the only one that looks like a chick. But then again, I don't know. It's Asian youth all do kind of look the same.
Their names are...
Not to sound racist or anything, but I mean, the facial structures are very, very close.
Lu Ke-ran, Peng Ji-chen, Lin Fan, An Jun-ji, and Min Jun-quen. Holy Christ.
So, do they all pretend they're not girls?
They just don't address it. And they act like dudes, and they bass drop their voices, and one of them raps like a dude, and they all act like dudes.
Well,
and their fans are like all girls.
Are their fans aware that they're not girls?
Yes.
That they're girls?
Yes, it's all make-believe.
All right, well, we've had artists here that pretend to be girls. Let's see, Boy George.
David Bowie.
He didn't pretend to be a girl.
He did the androgyny thing. This is all about androgyny.
Kind
of the labels of sexual gender identification.
But everyone knew that Boy George was a dude and David Bowie was a dude. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm transgender. No, this is the look I'm going for. This is the style I'm going for. And that's acceptable. Because they never said they weren't a guy. I'm trying to come up with more examples, but I can't think of any.
Well, see, I'm going to read some notes. Although the 5 members of Acrush have claimed to be straight, parentheses, to say otherwise would invite a backlash, Their avid fans, mostly young women, pay them the highest compliment available to boy band members. They refer to them as Lao Gong, or husbands. We covered that kind of. On Weibo, which is the Chinese version of Twitter, tween girls profess feeling a genuine bond with the stars. You're so handsome like a god, but I feel like if we met, we could be friends. Yeah. When I asked another friend in China who's familiar with teen culture why young women might prefer girls dressed up as boys to real boys, she drew my attention to the culturally enforced chasm between the sexes. To adolescent girls in China, boys can be unknowable and intimidating. Traditional Confucian fathers can be authoritarian and remote. As a result of the one-child policy, few girls grow up with a brother, a member of the opposite sex with whom they might have formed a natural bond. Moreover, dating in middle and high school is largely forbidden in China, so young women have little real-life experience with men until college, when they must hustle to find a good match before they turn into, quote, leftover women. There's a term called the leftovers, and it's for women in their 30s that are not yet married. So you've got an entire culture that pretty much says, do not date until college. You focus on your studies and just bam, 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 knock out all these high grades. And if you don't succeed, you might as well fucking kill yourself. So you are trying to attain the highest academic status. And then when you get to college, it's, well, you guys should probably get together now.
Well,
so that you can make babies. By then you have not been socialized with the other gender, so you don't know how to react. Guys don't know how to approach women. That's why there's so many fucking virgins there. Like ridiculous amounts of virgins, like going into their late 20s and 30s.
So because of that, they're saying that the fans of this group here like them because even though they're women, they look like boys and they can relate to them.
I don't know. It's some sort of exposure somewhat to the male gender, even if it's being broadcast as chicks that are posing as dudes.
Is it me or is this just being way too overthought?
Possibly. I don't know. Somebody just wanted to see if the androgyny thing would fly, and it does, and they're wildly popular.
Well, it could be because, well, yeah, maybe the look, but I don't think it's so much, well, they're girls, but they look like guys who can, it's probably because they might have really good music, and they might actually have a talent for singing. I mean, yeah, I don't understand their language, but it worked.
They were manufactured. This was all put together by a producer. These weren't like 5 chicks that like, let's do this. Just like the Spice Girls
even that being
or the
there,
Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, they were manufactured.
Yeah, but I mean, still, they pick people with talent, and these girls, they work well together to make it work. I'm being way too overthought, I think.
I wish I could see all of these chicks with long hair to see how they would look as females. Just to see how feminine they actually look, because they're taping their tits down.
You got a pen? I can draw long hair.
We're not going to doodle on the fucking visual aids here. Here's another thing I'm going to throw out there. When they talked about not claiming to be straight, there'd be backlash. It wasn't until 2001 that China removed homosexuality from a list of, quote, mental illnesses.
Oh, so they're catching up with the times.
But they still do not recognize gay marriage over there.
Well, some people are slower than others.
It's just...
It went way over there.
Motherfucker. And here's what kind of boggles my mind, because I don't think that shit would fly over here. People would make fun of them constantly, but it just shows how much more accepting Chinese culture is of stuff like this.
That's an interesting way to put it, and I think, yeah. Okay, the girls over here that dress up like dudes are not as, dare I say, good-looking as them?
Right. I mean, you could put long hair on at least 3 of these 5 broads, and as long as they're 18, I would find them attractive.
Whereas most women who pretend they're guys over here do not look that good.
I just want to say that they just took girls and then gave them 90s boy haircuts and put them in male clothing. So they look very effeminate in the face. It's not like, they gave them a gorilla mask by cutting somebody's pubes off and then gluing it to their face like a really thinly veiled goatee. Now I'm looking at your goatee. I don't know why.
Yeah, I suppose if you took just regular plain girls here, not necessarily the ones that butched it out. I'm sorry, I was accidentally making a correlation between girls that look like girls that look like guys and lesbians. That wasn't my intention.
Right. Because they've completely taken the sexual orientation element out of this completely, and it's all about presentation.
And, I don't have an issue with that.
I don't have an issue with it, but it's just interesting to see the dichotomy between our two cultures, because you look at the rest of the world that doesn't really focus on race as much as we do. And there's ethnic diversity everywhere. The only country that comes close to us in the last 100 years for dealing with issues of race and social studies and such is South Africa with the end of apartheid.
Yay.
Where they were separated and now they're together, and then it was like this huge fucking cultural backlash, and the youth were like, we're sick of this fucking segregation, fuck you. And that's when it took hold. Kind of much the same way with our civil rights movement. There wasn't the slavery element to apartheid like it was here. I mean, we've had several different generational issues. There's always been race issues in America. First, there was the one where we stole the whole country from a different race. Right out of the blocks. We're just like, fuck you. Have some blankets. Oh. And then we're like, all right, get me a boat full of brown people. I need them to help me farm. Because I am not going out in that field and picking my own strawberries.
And I am not paying white man's wages.
Right. And then once we freed them, then it was, well, now you can't vote and own property. But hey, you're not a slave anymore. Yay! And then,
they were allowed to vote. It's just it wasn't worth as much.
Well, they still didn't view them as a whole person. Wasn't like the 3/5 thing? I can't remember.
The 3/5 rule, and there was an argument made. The reason why they did that was so when slaves were allowed, if they were allowed to vote and they were still working for a white person, that the white person would sway them to vote in their favor for, basically it would be like return to slavery or some shit. So they made the votes worth less so that they wouldn't unbalance an actual thing. And I don't know, it seems like a weak ass argument, but that's just something I read about years ago.
Honkies just want to rule the world. So back to the androgyny thing. This shit would not fly in America because, well, one, of the First Amendment and democracy, where anybody says whatever the fuck they want on the internet, whereas in China, they heavily police the internet. And Weibo, I think they have another version of Facebook that's their own there, where they force people to use their own names. There's no other identity bullshit. You have to say who you are online or else.
Well, yeah, they don't have the freedom of speech that we have.
So if this shit happened here, I mean, they get mocked incessantly, and they'd be, oh, they're a bunch of fucking faggots or dykes, or I don't even know what to call them, because I've had too many PBR tall boys, and it's only like 11 in the morning, but my brain's not fired up. Let me get a few punches in on my wife and see if I can't clear my thoughts. It would be socially acceptable to the millennial generation, and I think to most Gen Xers and such. But I'm pretty sure the baby boomers would be like, fuck this shit. You can't let these girls dress up as boys. I refuse to sit here and watch objects of sexual confusion on my television dance and gyrate in ways that really make me curious and question who I've been all my life.
Save that for the stripper joint. No, I don't think the baby boomer generation would make an issue out of it. They'd just be like, oh, well, that's just terrible. Because they're not ones that really go out and complain and riot and all that shit. That would be the millennials that do that.
Yeah, but that's when they're like, hey, we don't like your hate, old people. Stop getting so white.
We're going to use hate to fight your hate.
Rah, I'm angry at your whiteness. Well, like, 3/4 of you Antifa fuckers are white. Don't inject logic into your argument. It confuses us, which is why we brought bats and got masks and such.
This is a peaceful protest. Yeah, but we have weapons.
Yeah.
And not one of our protests have actually remained peaceful.
Yeah, well. I wish somebody would try this here to see what would happen.
I would just like to see more talent on the stage, regardless as to how they dress, or sexual preference, or any of that.
Well, see, now, these 5 chicks, and I think sometimes it's been as many as 7 in Acrush, they sing, they write music, they practice choreography constantly. They are living this life all the time when they got started. I don't know how much they're doing of it now because they've been around for a little bit.
Well, I guess my only issue with a band like that, I like to watch a band on stage or in a music video that actually plays instruments. I'm not that interested in choreography. I don't care how well you can move with your music. I like to watch musicians play instruments.
Well, this is pop. They don't do that.
I know. Well, you can do that. I mean, well, okay, it wasn't New
Timothy
Kids on the Block.
Timothy, not everybody can be Ace of Base.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
That was like a generational talent. Ace of Base.
I still think they can.
Okay.
They should be like Ace of Base. We'll put it that way. And
Fucking
Metallica
love
writes
Ace
its own
of
music.
Base.
Queen.
Why is it always right to Metallica?
Because they're my favorite band.
God, Lars is such
Queen.
a giant douche.
Queen. Lars, take him, leave him, doesn't matter. He's not a super talented drummer, but he can drum good.
Yeah, no shit, he's not a super talented drummer.
He can double bass like no man's business, though. That's about all he's got.
I don't know about that.
I've seen comparisons. But that's all he's got. He doesn't have any other real drumming talent. But then look at Queen. They wrote their own music, and the Bohemian Rhapsody, that's like the greatest song ever. One person wrote that. And you got a song by, who the hell was it? I want to say it was that Chicky Dude. Bieber.
Yeah.
Baby, 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 baby.
That was years ago.
Yeah, but
none of his shit's like that. And he wrote that himself pretty much.
No, he didn't. It had 4 producers, and that's the best they could come up with.
Yeah, but when he started, he was doing his own shit on YouTube. That's how he rose to fame in Canada.
Well, this wasn't then. This was written. You look at the credits for that song, 6 people had to write that song. Give me a break.
Maybe the instrumental and such. If you really want to get into an argument about it, like Beck won a Grammy, and then everyone's like, well, what about Beyonce? Well, Beck can fucking play like insane amounts of instruments. How many can Beyonce play besides the skin flute?
She can barely sing.
And she has like, I don't know, close to 40 producers on her album.
Yeah, because she doesn't have any talent. That's why they need so much production.
No, she can sing and dance. If you ever let any group of women hear you say Beyonce has no talent, you better fucking run. Especially if it's a group of women of color. They will lynch your ass.
They can't feel bad because I don't think even Madonna has a lick of talent anymore either.
She's old.
Or Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Speaking of androgyny, pretty sure I thought Lady Gaga had a dick the first time I saw her. It's not her fault she's got such a pronounced Adam's apple. So even though you're like, whoa, fuck it, there's only 2 genders, rah, last episode, now you're like, yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I could listen to that.
Well, because they're not sitting there saying that they identify as guys. It's just, it's a look they're going for. It's different.
So if the androgyny wave that's hit China in popularity hit here, would you not be just furious all the time? Like, I don't know what you are!
I just explained to you. It doesn't matter to me what a person is or isn't when they're on stage. I mean, as long as they're like, yeah, we're women, but this is our look. I mean
in public.
Oh, like everyone's
Am I supposed to challenge you to a fight or masturbate thinking about you? I can't decide.
Oh, well, I don't... Again, I mean, how a
Gender
person
bending.
dresses is one thing or another. Like I said, cross-dressers, I mean, whatever.
Okay, so let's say you weren't married and you were hanging out at the bowling alley and some chick showed some interest in you and then you talked to her for like an hour and a half and then she went to give you her number and kiss you goodnight and then as she leaned in, you felt a dick slap your hand.
I'd be really fucking pissed.
Yeah, see?
You don't come at me and act like you're a chick when you're a dude, okay?
I would have been like, excuse me, ma'am? Your gun is digging into my hip.
I was just thinking that.
I'll call you tomorrow as long as you promise to tape it better. Jesus. No, not really.
Let's
I'm
just
not
say
comedian
she was
Jim
playing
Norton.
knick-knack on my paddywhack.
No. But it's a female penis.
There is no female penis.
I can tell you that when me and Neil went down to the Twisted show at the Caboose this summer, fuck, we walked past some obviously strung out crackhead gender bender. It was a dude with tits and like chest hair.
Like implants?
It was a 6 foot tall dude in heels and a skirt and a tank top, and it looked like it had tits, but there was still chest hair, and it looked like he really did not shave that morning before he put on all 8 pounds of his makeup.
Yeah, I'd avoid that person.
she, and I'm air quoting she, was walking with some dude. And I'm like, uh-oh. Is she going to suck his dick so that he can give her money for drugs? Because I kind of feel like where we're at right now with all those homeless people over there by the stoplight begging for change and shit. And, it's a matter of time before we stumble across some used needles in the gutter here. I mean, we found some condoms in the gutter when we were getting back in the car.
They're going to play some tummy sticks.
They're not. They're going to play, he's going to stab her in the throat. Repeatedly.
Once you find out it's a dude.
There's no illusion that this was a woman.
An extremely drunk person could have mistaken that for a woman.
Chest hair. With tits.
An extremely drunk person could probably have mistaken that for, I'm just saying.
Do you have a story that you want to come clean about? Because you seem really adamant that this could happen.
I've never been that drunk.
Like, oh my God, what a pretty lady. Come here. And you wake up the next morning with a fucking pair of female underpants next to you and then a wig on the nightstand, and you're like, why is my ass hurt?
The closest I ever came to anything even remotely like that is I went to the mall with my girlfriend and a buddy and his girlfriend. And my girlfriend and my friend were wearing kind of similar tops. Mm-hmm. They were wearing flannels. And I walked up behind and I thought it was my girlfriend, and I gave a little squeeze of the ass. And my friend turns like, what the fuck? And I'm like, Jesus! That's about as far as I've ever gone.
Huh.
Didn't even realize. I just like, oh, they're just...
That's why I'm against long hair on guys that wear skinny jeans. It's confusing.
Well, she was wearing blue jeans, he was wearing black jeans, but I just saw the tots. I didn't even look at that back of the head. I could have grabbed a complete stranger at that point.
Jesus, that's reckless abandon right there.
That was.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.